topic is Global Reach, Local Impact, Strategies for Building a Worldwide Business Empire. Our panelists include Ravindo Gore, CEO of Elite and Sophisticated, Noel S. Paul, Founder, President and CEO of Tiger Careers and Consulting, Vishal Pathak, Director at InterContinental Money PLC, and our moderator, Harshal Patil, who is the CEO and founder of BTV Venture Group. A round of applause for our panelists. This is the last half of the day.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to place one request so that, moderators will also feel a little encouraged. The people sitting beside, if you can just come quietly. So that it will be a closed group, right? Thank you so much. So before, I set the context of this panel, I'll just request moderators to, give a quick 30 seconds intro of yourself. We'll start from you. Or...
Hi everyone, I'm Vishal Pathak from InterContinental Money PLC. We are a London headquartered alternate banking solutions provider where we take care of the biggest challenge which corporates are facing these days, and that is banking, of course. So we provide London-based, we are a London headquartered UK FCA licensed and regulated institution, having presence in India, UAE, and London, of course. And yeah, looking forward to have this discussion today on this very interesting topic. And yeah, thanks.
Thanks very much, Vishal. So I'm Noel Paul from the US. What brings me to this conference on this topic is that I was 28 years in corporate America in the pharmaceutical industry and animal health industry. And a lot of my roles were either global in HR roles and managing talent globally, as well as global expansions. So one of the areas was to be able to secure a $3 million grant from the Bill Gates Foundation to commercialize animal health products for smallholder farmers in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, and also managing our global leadership pipeline, especially focusing on emerging markets for business expansion across Asia and East Europe, as well as Latin America. Great to be here.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Ravindo Gore. I'm a global visionary, and I'm also a delegate of the United Nations, I'm also delegate of the United Nations. I'll be attending a conference on the status of women in a few weeks' time, and I am the CEO of Elite and Sophisticated. So I hope our contributions will be able to help you today.
Thank you so much, guys. So the topic is quite, diversified, though we will try to make it slightly niche. So global reach and local impact. So where, you are well known as Hollywood star, but still you remember the names of your neighborhood dogs actually. So, and it's not about planting your flag globally. It's about making sure it waves in every local breeze. And as an entrepreneur, we always need to keep in mind that, in the game of global business, the best players knows how to blend themselves like a chameleon, wearing a suit, adaptable, colorful, and always professional actually. So my question to you, Vishal, so since you have worked with some of the largest banks as well, and you are involved in the cross-border transactions, what is the importance of, considering compliance in the first place?
Thanks, Harshal. Actually, I'll speak more on the regulatory and compliance part of international business because I think that is the key and most important factor when anyone is considering global expansion. If we remember 10-15 years back, companies and entrepreneurs used to take decision of setting up the entity overnight without giving it much thought. That okay, fine, I'll set up my entity in this particular jurisdiction, I'll be saving taxes, or I'll do aggressive tax planning to minimize my taxes, but gone are the days now. Now word is one. We share information weekly basis. There's exchange of information. There's so much to do. So I think whenever you are deciding on the global expansion, it is very, very important to give due consideration to the regulatory aspect, because setting up is easy, but winding up is very, very difficult. It is very easy to set up. So yeah, I mean, regulatory and compliance is the key for any business, whether it is SME, mid-market companies, or a very large corporate. Now, rule, taxation, compliance, it's same for everyone. Yeah, I hope I have.
Yes, absolutely. So, in alliance with what Vishal just mentioned, Noel, you have been working across the US market. So, and then of course helping international companies to set up their operations. So my question is, when these companies are, considering a global expansion, you have mentioned the importance of knowing why a firm is doing so. I mean, can you please elaborate why?
Yeah, I think, a lot of times when we're doing business expansions, we're typically either trying to extend a product line or trying to grow our top line revenue, or obviously trying to bring profits back to the firm. Those are the obvious reasons, right? But really, I think it's going back to how does this expansion fit into your overall strategy of the firm, rather than just the numbers and the dollars, because those are always the rationale and the logical way to approach it. So I can just share our example is when I was with the animal health company, we were actually supporting smallholder farmers because in East Africa, because it was a social impact initiative, right? And the Gates Foundation was the largest donor, and we were the largest private donor. The Gates Foundation gave $26 million. We gave $1 million to support smallholder farmers. And then I was in Seattle, and the Gates Foundation people said, hey, Noel, are you going to take your products into East Africa for the farmers? And we said no, because it was low margin. What we were selling to large commercial farms, and so they said, we will de-risk your investment because we know that development funding should go away eventually and the private sector should take over, right? And so what I had to do was to convince our president of the company. It was a $4 billion company, 7,000 employees, but I had to convince Jeff that this geo expansion is not only for business. This stood for our cause of addressing global hunger as a firm, because we're a food animal company, and we said if we can help farmers produce more productive cows, chickens, pigs, healthier proteins, then we're able to address global hunger. So that was kind of our why, is we're really doing this geo expansion because we want to stand for our culture and our values and our cause. So we believe we can incorporate social impact and business impact at the same time. And that concept was really developed by Harvard University in 2011 called Shared Value, where Professor Mark Kramer and Mike Porter put that together, and we adopted that. So I think coming back, I just share that example because it was beyond just dollars. Do we have to make it work financially? Do we need to make sure we could command the gross margins we need to keep it profitable? Yes, but that wasn't our why. So I think it's really important for companies and leaders to really think about why are they really going into that beyond dollars. Hope that helps.
Absolutely. Thank you, Noel. In addition to what Noel has just mentioned, I also just took a liberty to study one model for world's #2 cloud solutions company of how they have scaled across 98 countries. So, and then fundamentally I just took the notes. So this company is, I'll not name it, but the first thing that they did right was choosing the best sales model. They compared whether the direct sales is going to work, whether the indirect sales is going to work, or OEM, distributor, or hybrid approach. I mean, they really did ground research of which is the right approach for them. The second thing that they did was selecting the right sales methodology, where, they tried to make it solution-based, feature-focused, consultative, but price-oriented. So they have taken all these factors into consideration before they have taken the next leap to take it global. And then from a branding standpoint as well, they actually put a lot of thought on whether they should create a new brand or they should use parent brand as one of the key image around actually. And the last part was they had a thorough marketing plan with appropriate KPIs. Now, it was not just the plan. I mean, I went through that particular plan. It was 90-page plan, and it was not a plan. It was actually the execution that they did. So my question to you, Ravimbo, is you are actually also working around the social side of it. So would like to know that what are some of the key challenges or regulatory things that you have noticed primarily in your market, and how effectively companies have been overcoming it by positioning themselves socially pretty good. So if you could just comment.
Well, basically, I mean, I feel like when you are trying to establish a business abroad or locally, you have to really understand the market. Because by understanding the market, you're able to understand yourself and how best you can really market your business and yourself worldwide. And the challenges which are up there, which I believe is prior to COVID, a lot of things have changed within the business arena. For example, if you realized that many of the countries around the world are going into recession. Like, for example, I come from the United Kingdom and we're currently in recession. So to be able to start a business is becoming increasingly harder. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely. So, Vishal, what I noticed is it's pretty important about this particular company that I just mentioned. They access, the pricing strategy quite well by considering the, local environment and also the price sensitivity around less developed markets actually. So as you are working and your role is, at InterContinental, being a global payment service provider, you have clients across the globe, right? So what is your thought process and how actually you are doing that particular expansion?
At InterContinental? Yeah, thanks. See, so that's a very good question in fact, and as I mentioned before that it's a very rigorous exercise and you need to think it through that. First question, why you want to expand? Second question, if you want to expand, where to expand? These are the two major initial questions. And once you have decided that, yes, now I'm good to go outside the country. So what we are doing at InterContinental, we are, as I mentioned before, that we are a UK headquartered, licensed, regulated financial institution where we are solving banking issue for the global community. And we have clients from maybe more than 50, 60 countries, but we are not looking forward to have a physical presence in all those 50, 60 countries, yet we are expanding to the jurisdictions which is more in line with our strategy, with our vision for the company, where our vision is to create and connect global community through our alternate banking platform. And this is what we're trying to achieve. So on the one side, we don't want to have our physical presence in all those countries where our clients are coming from, but we are, every year we are expanding soon. So right now we are present in UK, UAE and India. We very soon will be having our presence in a couple of more jurisdictions. And then yeah, slowly we will see whichever jurisdiction is more in line with our strategy and mission, we'll go.
Okay, absolutely. So Noel, as you mentioned, first companies need to decide why they want to expand. Let's say if they are clear on it. So once, let's say, organization have made this decision to really expand further, there are many elements to really execute this decision actually. So what is an overreaching guiding principle that you have found to be pretty critical while implementing it?
Yeah, first of all, can we give Vishal a round of applause for sharing the phrase, set it up before you wind it up, right? Because I just love that. I bet you guys love that. That's really good. Like, I'm over here on the panel, and I'm taking that home with me, so thank you for that. Yeah, so I think, you kind of mentioned earlier too, Ruma, and that is, when you're, especially if you're an entrepreneur, and you're in a startup or a high-growth company, your goal is to go fast, right? And if you know the analogy of, let's say you're shooting a gun, you typically will say, ready, aim, fire, right? Well, if you're a startup or if you're in a high-growth company, you're probably ready, fire, aim, right? Or you're not even aiming. You're just like ready, fire, 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 right? And that might be successful, but you're incorporating a ton of risk by taking that approach. You might be wasting resources, you might be having an inefficient market entry, you might be giving up price, you might be giving up profit, because you haven't done the due diligence to really think about what is going into that market and what it takes to go into that market. Because a blind spot for companies and individuals is, this is what's helped me be successful in this market, copy, paste into this market, right? And you, of course, you've heard all the great examples from way back in the day when Chevrolet went into Mexico and their name of the car was Nova, and Nova means doesn't go in Spanish, and they had 0 sales of that car. It was a blind spot, they missed it, right? They didn't want to change the labeling, they said we could just crank out more from the same manufacturing line, okay? So I'll give you that backdrop, but really the crux of the matter is you have to be very rigorous in your due diligence and very thorough in your due diligence as you develop your market entry strategy. So when we went into East Africa, it took us a long time to get into that market. Well, one, because of Vishal's point about regulatory, we had to get regulatory approvals for animal health products as well as vaccines. There's a Ministry of Health in one country, there's a Ministry of Agriculture in another country, there's no regulatory harmonization. And then the second thing we had to do was put together a very detailed project plan. And that project plan also had a risk mitigation plan, and it had a contingency plan if we could not mitigate the 3 to 4 key risks that we were seeing, okay? And remember, we were funded by the Gates Foundation, so they want us to use their money intelligently. The president is saying, we need to make this a profitable venture, otherwise we close the doors, and then we look terrible because we said we want to feed the hungry, and we're walking away from the business, okay? So we wanted to be very, very diligent, and so we had thought about all these things before we even went in execution mode. But that takes discipline to be patient, because if you're a shareholder-owned company, there's stock price pressure. They want you to grow, all this kind of stuff like that. But due diligence, rigor, planning, contingency planning, and risk mitigation would be the guidance I would offer.
Absolutely. So I think as you have mentioned, my next question will be again to you, because it's slightly relevant to what you have just mentioned actually. One problem that the global companies have seen when they are expanding to certain market is the attrition. So, and there are 2 ways using which they do it. Either they will recruit the local people through any staff augmentation agency, or they will go themselves on the ground and recruit someone, or they might send people from offshore to the high cost countries actually. So from that particular perspective, as you have led for the global recruitment initiatives, what are the key aspects that companies should consider actually regarding the people side of global expansion? So what are some of the challenges that you're seeing?
Yeah, so I teach global leadership back in the US, and one of the things I always tell my cohorts is, look, global leadership is not easy, right? If you want to be a global leader, you better be ready to work. And you don't really have a choice nowadays because the workforce is multicultural, the business is global, so you almost don't have an option, but it's hard, okay? And so when you're managing business expansions with talent, I think one of the struggles or challenges that you have to be able to address is culture. And there's a culture dynamic in terms of organizational culture, okay? So now I'm at Eli Lilly, pharmaceutical company, $25 billion, 40,000 employees worldwide, and we're hiring global MBAs from US schools, top programs in Asia, INSEAD, ESA, PADE from Mexico, and we're putting them into our emerging markets. So the one thing around culture is we want to make sure they fit our Lilly culture and our Lilly values. Regardless of whether they're going to go work in Korea, Mexico, Belgium, Taiwan, doesn't matter. They have to fit that cultural value of the organization, and we would screen for that. I would screen for that, okay? And then the second part is they have to be able to take that organizational culture and make it thrive in the local culture in which they're operating, right? And so that was a real struggle, but we had to really screen for that, right? So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is you mentioned about, do you infuse talent from the home headquarters? Do you bring in local talent? And what I've learned over time as we were going through expansion, phase 1 of a company's global expansion is they'll typically take their home country leadership, and they'll plant them in the expansion country, right? Second phase of talent management is you'll take the local country talent and say, hey, this is a potential leader, let's bring them and give them some experience in headquarters, right? That's phase 2. Phase 3, when you're truly a global company, is we had a French leader running China, okay? That's third country nationals leading across global cultures. That's when you know you're a multinational company. But those are the phases that we went through as we managed talent. Hope that helps.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are two sides, Vishal. So one is, the valuation-based companies who might not be profitable. They are just overvalued. And second one is the real profitable firms, right? So there is a, example of leading real estate company. When they were doing the business locally, they were profitable. When they started taking the leap to the global market, their valuation increased actually, but profitability decreased. And now they're bankrupt. So from your example, as you're working with many corporates, so do you think one strategy fits all when it comes to global expansion?
That's a very
Controversial.
Yeah, not controversial, but I'll say, yeah, definitely that's a very interesting question, because see, of course, one strategy won't fit all the corporates, because every organization, every sector has different need, different requirements. And you rightly said that these days, startups having million and billion of valuation, it's all about valuation game. But still, I mean, at the end of the day, what you are taking home, that matters. And even startups who are well funded, they are struggling to carry the growth in the market because of competition, because of so many factors. So definitely, I mean, one strategy will never fit to all the corporates, because I will again add to what Noel just mentioned, that once you have decided to expand, you need to look inside at what you are capable of, where you can expand, how. So, it's all mixed actually. So as I mentioned before about regulatory and compliance requirements, now imagine if I am setting up an entity anywhere outside my home country. Apart from creating value for my brand, I should also think about the sustainability. I think I should also think about the creating local impact in that jurisdiction. Am I hiring local employees in that country? Because then only you create value. This is one side of the story. Now the other side, if you relate this with the global taxation thing, it is must that you hire local employees. It is must that you spend money in that particular jurisdiction where you are expanding. So it is all mixed. So yeah, the few things which would be common to all corporates, all sectors, all industries, but of course everyone will have their own strategy to expand. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think in this expansion, there are a lot of challenges that companies are seeing as well. So there is one of the leading hospitality firm in India and Singapore. So they were building a resort in a village, and all the villagers, go against them, because they thought, this resort is going to take away our jobs. So smartly what they have done is they employed one person from each family, and they haven't recruited anyone from outside. They spent 6 months to train them. They also supported them with the farming initiatives, they supported them with the loan. So I think again it's case to case in a way. But from your experience, how crisis management can be done, Noel, actually? Because I think crisis management is pretty important. Before you make a decision to even open the office, it's quite important to study the cultural norms around it. So before making a decision, what are your thoughts? If you could just share from your experience.
Yeah, so I think earlier I was mentioning about the importance to have a risk mitigation plan once you identify your risks, and also have a contingency plan if you're not able to mitigate that risk, right? And so really, it's, there's 2 points, right? One is you should be able to at least anticipate most of the crises that are coming, because if you haven't done your due diligence, then maybe it wasn't rigorous enough. But that's only maybe 50 to 60% of the crises that you can anticipate, right? But there are obviously other ones that are going to happen that you're not going to anticipate. And so I think that comes back to what is your company culture, right? Who is the leader and the personality of that leadership team and how cohesive and connected are they if they do have a crisis. And I think, I had the opportunity in a role to lead leaders, okay? And leading leaders is way different than just leading people, right? And so the leader of those leaders should be kind of putting them in environments where it says, okay, let's create a fake crisis. What would you do? Because you're basically developing muscles so that you can flex them when you need them, but you have to build them when you don't need them. And you just have to be able to know that you have to anticipate, because nowadays with geopolitical risk, all kinds of dynamics happening across the world, whether they're political rallies, weather storms that are unanticipated, there is so much unidentifiable risk that you have to be able to say, what is our skill to address crises, irregardless of the actual crisis? So it's actually a capability, and I think organizations need to invest in it.
Absolutely. So I think as we have 5 minutes, we'll also open up for the question and answer. But before that, just would like to summarize, this discussion. So, with global expansion, it also comes with a great responsibility actually. So, for example, you cannot sell sushi in Italy. You have to, maybe sell it like sushi pizza. So fundamentally, RevOps framework is something that has worked really well for all those successful companies who have, globally expanded. RevOps, which is a revenue operations framework, where there is no disconnection or silos between sales, marketing, customer success, and project delivery. So all those 4 departments have been working together with common KPI leads to a successful global expansion is what the common studies says. Now would love to open up for a question and answer. It seems you're all set for the evening festivities in downtown.
Hello, thank you very much for your reflection, very interesting. I'd like to share my experience. I've been leading for many years, about 15 years, a global team with a really very big range of diversity, cultural diversity. And personally, it has been, of course, at the beginning, a very strong challenge to me. But when I understood how to put these diversities in values, it was really a kind of light on the table, on the team, because we were able to recognize, and there was also a lot of ironic activity, cultural merge. But we were able, and the team was able, to really put in value and raise the bar of each great aspect for the different cultures. So, for an example, put together people from Italy, where I come from, with people from Russia, from UK, where everything is possible and 100% flexibility is a must, and when the rules are strict and you need to follow and you cannot go out, at the beginning was again very strong, but then I found the key to transform the diversity in values, and this was a real fuel to become a very successful team. This was my experience, just wanted to share.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I can build on that, when you have a global team, the ability to work across cultures, sometimes you identify, a lot of times we'll talk about cultural differences, but the challenge for the global leader is what's the common ground, right? And for us on the East Africa work, our common ground was we're helping smallholder farmers change their lives, right? But we ran into big challenges because my project manager was German, and Germans are very and she was our project manager, so not only was she German, she was managing our schedule, okay? Then, on the other hand, we had our distributor partner and training veterinarian in Nairobi, and our quality assurance in Johannesburg. So Astrid in Germany hated the people in Nairobi. She said, Noel, they need to be off the project, they don't care about the project. I said, no, Astrid, it's not a performance issue, it's a cultural difference, right? And if we don't recognize that, then we'll misinterpret the cultural dynamics that are in play. So, very well done, congratulations.
Just to maybe sum it up along with your point, I think the brand messaging is also quite crucial based on different regions is what I also noticed for a few use cases. One example, let's say if you are reaching out to a US-based decision maker, you have to be crisp when you are reaching out. Same goes for Germany. On the other hand, if you are reaching out to someone in India, you have to be slightly descriptive with what you are positioning. So cultural tonality, readability score, then the appropriate call to actions in the brand messaging is also crucially important, and it has to change region to region, even state to state actually. So we need to go more niche when we are positioning about it actually.
Yeah, just closing remark from my side. I remember famous brand guru, marketing guru, always Jack Robb once said that brand name is not a mere license to go out and nail a big game. Rather, it needs to be cut and polished. So once you think that your brand is cut and polished, then you should decide on the expansion strategy. Thank you.
Thank you.